1. So here we are, waiting for the temperature to come down, and it's just about there. It's right at 72, which is the pitching temperature, the upper limit of the pitching temperature. So before we go any further, do a quick recap here. We steeped our grains at about 155 degrees for 30 minutes. When that was done, we brought our water to a boil and it added the extract. We brought that to a boil and started our timer, at which point we added the first hop addition. Now this hop addition was the Chinook, and it was going to be in there for 60 minutes. So through the whole boil it was in there. After 45 minutes we added the Cascade. At the end of that, we took our wood and we dumped it into our, what will be our fermenter, our primary fermenter. We added cold water that I had put in the freezer. This is spring water, supposedly pure water, clean, sanitized. I haven't had a problem with it yet, so I assume it's good. I put the whole concoction into my big tub here, surrounded that with various ice packs, plus a bunch of ice from my ice maker. We're at 71 degrees now, so that's at a good temperature. Every once in a while I would stir it to move the water around to get it to homogenize and get to a good temperature. So now, before we go any further, we're going to do the gravity. This is the original gravity, this is your baseline, so you'll know where you're at. Going back to sanitizing, nothing goes in this wort now that it has dropped in temperature. It's below 180 degrees, nothing should touch it unless it's been sanitized. So, this is my high-tech turkey baster, which I'm going to draw off my wort. One thing that I did off camera that you guys didn't see, to bring up my alcohol level just a bit, I added a ½ pound of corn sugar. ½ pound's not a lot, but it will raise my alcohol level a little bit. I'm looking for another ½ point. I want it to have the potential to be around 4. You notice I had a little bit left in this. I did not put it back in my bucket. I almost did, but I didn't. So I have a predetermined line on here. Got my hydrometer. Give it a little spin. While that's spinning away, put my cover back on because I don't want anything to contaminate my beer. I've worked long and hard at this. This whole process has taken about 3 hours, plus or minus. Okay, so we're spinning around. Let's see, we are at, that is amazing. I use a calculator on Tasty Brew, and it told me I should end up at 1.035. Guess where I'm at? 1.036. That's a good number. I'm happy with that. That's going to put me right where I expect to be, which is about between 3.6 and 4.0 ABV. Remember we said that that was alcohol? So, we're all set. I'm going to add my yeast. Before I add my yeast, I'm going to stir the crap out of this. The yeast wants to have a lot of air to get going. This is an aerobic operation. We all know aerobic means oxygenated air. A handy dandy thermometer. This is probably one of the primary tools you should have. This is a digital oneator thermometer. Sanitized, goes into the wort. You want to aerate this. Get that to mix up into the wort. So, remember we were talking about the yeast? Liquid yeast. Look how much that swelled up. That took about 3 hours to get to that point. I don't know that if I had left that sitting on the counter that it would have done it by itself. I think the fact that I was a little bit silly by some people's standards in putting it in my pocket to warm it up, I actually think was actually a brilliant idea. So here we go. Here goes the yeast. I only cut a large enough hole in that to allow the liquids to come out. There's a little plastic bag in there that I did not want to come out, so I don't make the hole too big. So, you notice I put the spoon down in the sink. Recommend it or not, I always give it a little bit of a spin and a little lift before I call it quits. Here's my cover for my bung unit. Sanitize, sanitize, sanitize. Nothing touches this wort that is not sanitized once it cools down below 180 degrees. Next step, we're going to put an airlock on. The airlock sticks down into the chamber where the wort is. Gets sanitized. Plus spraying it a little helps get it into the bung. Now, you can put distilled water in there, spring water, or you can put cheap vodka into that airlock. And the reason you would do something like that is sometimes when you pick up the bucket, it creates a little bit of a vacuum when the bottom sinks down and it sucks that liquid in. Well, if it's just regular water, it could suck it back in. So, if it sucks a little vodka in there, no harm done. I don't have any cheap vodka, so I'm going to use my good stuff. It doesn't take all that much, so who cares? All that, and that's all it takes.